It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Mike.
And this week, we are discussing Rotten Tomatoes' new changes, Mike. Not only are they changing the way we get scores and how they score things, but they added audience meters. I'm very excited to discuss this with you because we've lamented their Rotten Tomatoes for years now. So I'm excited that we get to talk about these changes on the show.
Yes. I feel like they're doing something too that we've mentioned in the past, so this is good.
Absolutely. Surprising news this week, James Spader is returning as Ultron in the upcoming Vision series. We'll talk about kind of what that looks like. We get a delayed look at Martian Manhunter in the canceled Justice League Immortal film that was around 2008, 2009, and more. Pretty excited to dive into this.
It's the thickest alien I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, he well, I will tell you this. I'll tell you this. I was going to put it in the show. It's in the show for later. But that's the guy who played Immortan Joe in Fury Road. And I was like, I didn't know that at first. And then when I look at him, I'm like, oh, yeah, I see it. I see Fury Road in this man alone. But yeah, we get to talk about some good stuff this time. Welcome back. Thank you for being back. Appreciate that. I was thinking of you last night because my family came over and we did two things. Number one, we played this card game called Watch Movies, Get Drunk. And you have 3 cards, okay. And the cards are like, mine was like, when somebody stands up, you can give out a drink, right? Or something like that. Like different things people do in a movie. They're not movie specific. Things like that. So we were watching National Lampoon's Vacation, then we watched Austin Powers playing these games. One of my cards was when somebody takes off their an article of clothing. I'm like, Austin Powers, this is gonna be my card for this game. So we did that last night. But the other part of that was last week at the Comic-Con. I told you this, and being here, but I bought up all these sauces, hot sauces, right? More hot sauces than comic books. And we bought a bunch of naked wings from Roosters yesterday, and just we all doused these in these sauces all night last night, eating wings and random sauces. One of the
well, that's a good I guess not segue. I'm not trying to cut you off, but I was eagerly anticipating your Fan Expo kind of return last week, so I have to give a shout out to Superfan Jim for filling in for me last week when I couldn't make it to the pod. So I guess he got all of your delicious Fan Expo
oh yeah,
details.
Absolutely. And the deliciousness was in fact the like I said, the hot sauces, which were great, because one of the cool things about the hot sauces, Mike, and I will tell you this, is that normally when you eat a hot sauce that's just meant to be hot, like just hot for hot's fucking sake, you feel miserable the next 12 hours or so, right, as it goes through your body. These sauces, no pain, nothing at all today. Like literally, I feel great after eating these because they don't make them with a lot of like oils and stuff that like are supposed to make the heat linger on your tongue and body. So it was really nice to like have the heat and flavor up front, but not on the other side. So shout out to Gindos, Gindos hot sauces yet again for pulling through 2 weeks in a row for me. Really, really happy about that. And then you were
well, it sounds like a nice surprise from a nerdy expo. I'm not even entirely sure
it's
what's
essentially
it's
like a Comic-Con. It used to be called Wizard World, so they're like a Comic-Con. But like I told you, my whole goal was to ask people what their favorite burgers were at this Comic-Con, right? Any celebrity I could see. And Charlie Cox, as I told you, his favorite burger was In-N-Out. When I got to see him for a few seconds, I was like, "What's your favorite fast food burger?" We took our photo. He's like, In-N-Out. I'm like, "Thank you. I will see you." So. It did help that I had on the Superhero Slate shirt with the Infinity Gauntlet holding the burger wrapper that you designed for San Diego Comic-Con. So it adds a little authenticity to the question when you ask somebody that, rather than just, was this weirdo want to know what I eat? Because because that's what it felt like sometimes. But yeah. So we'll get right into it, Mike. A great segue, I guess. I don't know what this is. You've got to catch up on a shortened series finale season up here with the Umbrella Academy. What are you thinking, man?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to check in with you just to make sure. I was like, is Chris watching this or not? I can't remember exactly where he was at on the Umbrella Academy. But it sounds like you've fallen off, so it's just me left to carry the Umbrella through the final series.
Yeah, well, it's nothing against the show. We like the Umbrella Academy here, but like I said, there's so much and there's too much. Marvel adding Daredevil back in and all those other shows. I'm going to go back and finish those before I go back to Umbrella Academy now that it's wrapped up. I have no pressure to get there, but continue.
Yeah, well, I adored the first 3 seasons of the Umbrella Academy. Season 2, probably the strongest of them all. The ending of season 3 was a little weak, but kind of left on like a big cliffhanger. And just the show was always very unique. It was almost more just about the family and less about like comic booky superpower stuff. And the show was kind of airing in tandem over the last couple of years with The Boys. So I felt like, I was just having this great time with these kind of alternative comic book shows, that were very contrasty to, like these cinematic universes that we were seeing at the box office. So I was pretty excited to see like, oh, great. Umbrella Academy has beat the 3-season curse at Netflix. It's broke its way into a 4th season. And also they're going to be able to wrap it up. Like, how often does Netflix do that? Has like a fully finished, thought out story for any series that they air. So the first red flag, though, was only 6 episodes for this final season. I was like, okay, well, it's not the first time I've seen maybe a story wrapped up with a shortened episode order, but maybe the creators.
What was that? Game of Thrones did that, right? Everyone really loved how Game of Thrones ended as well. A lot of fans of the final season.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was avoiding too many like trailers for the final season, so I was like, oh, maybe they're building off of something, and it's almost going to feel like a part 2 of season 3 in a way. And oh boy, season 4 is just awful. It's so bad that something has to have gone wrong production wise. There's no way that you have the 3 seasons before it and you don't have a whole lot of change in between that, production wise, even if there was like, a pandemic hitch in the giddy up or something. There's no way that you crank out those 6 sad episodes. It took us forever to finish them too, because we have a newborn baby in the house. So sometimes we could only watch like half of an episode at once. So we couldn't even get it over with fast enough. We were on like we had to break the final episode up into like 3 watching sessions, and my wife and I were both like, let's just get this over with. How are they wrapping this up? And I don't like the way that it ended. There's a couple compelling things in the final season, but overall it's just botched from head to toe. I did some Googling. It sounds like everything was just like rushed and had to be crammed in the 6 episodes. I don't know if the show creators were just like put into a box or what.
I feel a couple things. I feel, number one, Netflix hasn't really stuck a landing to me before. I don't know if you feel any differently about that. They usually try 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and then they kind of taper off. It sounds like they maybe had a deal in place to get all 4, because if they shorted them 2 episodes, right, or 4, how many was it in old seasons, 8 or 10? More. It was more. Yeah, right. 10. So like, I feel, to me, again, this is no excuse for quality. You can make something good in 6 episodes just as you can in 10, but it feels like Netflix sounds like, hey, we're losing money, we're cutting our funding. A lot of streamers have cut their fundings, right, on this stuff. Do it in 6, or do it with less, and that. But do you feel like maybe they filmed 8 episodes or 10 episodes and chopped them up, or do you feel like they did the 6 that they wanted to? Do you feel like there's some disjointedness? Was my question.
Oh wow, disjointedness for sure. It's just like you're speed running through the story. You're not developing anything. Characters just suddenly have their new powers in this season on top of some of their old ones, and it's not thematic to their characters at all. So it just seems like maybe there was some explanation in there at some point that got ripped out, but it just seems like a gutted like race car. Like somebody just went in, pulled everything out to make it as light as possible so they could get 6 laps around the track and get out of there. So it's really, really sad because I loved those first 3 seasons. I don't know, since this is kind of like a comic booky universe, and I know the show ended up diverging from the comics at some point in time, or they didn't have material to work on. I don't remember exactly how it went. Maybe I'm trying to say is like maybe there's a comic book, more satisfying comic book ending out there in the world.
Yeah, they have not. This season was not based on any comic book iteration thus far. I know Gerard Way and the artist. I just had his name lost it. Have not written, I think, a 4th volume yet. So the show got ahead, even though they were diverged. They did get ahead of that, but the other ones did base off arcs in the other stories. So also, again, another, I guess, parallel to Game of Thrones, where the last season was based on a book that didn't exist as well, kind of thing. Like, what do you do with that whenever you're? I mean, it's not trying to throw it under the bus, but I'm just like, when you're trying to create something from the ground up and you had such good source material, it's hard to, I guess, continue that with whatever you have along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So unfortunately, I would have rather have watched what you caught. I haven't had a chance to go out to a movie theater in quite a while, but it looks like you caught a extraterrestrial.
Yes, that is correct.
Flick.
Alien Romulus. I was able to watch that this week, and I will preface this. Number one, I did not grow up on the Alien films, Mike. I came into them much later in life. I believe the first 2 are well, if not all of them, most of them are R-rated or maybe even PG-13. I don't remember, but I just didn't have access to them growing up, and it's nothing against the quality of them. Obviously, Alien and Aliens are both heralded as great films. Not 3 and 4, not so much. Alien versus Predator, I think, was where I finally got to see those in theaters, but those are not anywhere related to this. And over the past several years, I think both of us have caught Alien or Prometheus and also Alien Covenant, right, as they released the past 10 years. But Alien Romulus is different because it is directed by Fede Alvarez, a newcomer to the franchise, and takes place in between Alien 1 and Aliens, if you will. So this is very much a return to what does the universe look like a long, I guess, in the future from now, but a long time ago in this universe, right? Things aren't new and shiny. The black goo that's shiny is only from the alien, not from the leather suits they're wearing as they go through space. So it was very. I will say, spoilers here. I was thrilled to watch this film. It is very much a return to body horror with a lot of homages to the original films along the way. And it's got just a great cast, young actors in this movie who really kind of pulling it along, and I really enjoyed seeing that and kind of opening up the world of Alien, if you will, a little bit more along the way. It obviously features the return of the face huggers, the xenomorph creatures. You're in space. There are two parts of this movie that quote unquote people are discussing online. I don't think people are upset about it, but there are 2 parts of this. One comes very early on and actually continues out the film, and I found it really interesting and great because again, I'm not precious on this universe, right? It's an Alien universe. They've updated it, changed it. Ridley Scott, the progenitor of Alien, has gone on to make Covenant and Prometheus, which really, I guess, shake the snow globe of Alien's foundations, if you will. So it was fun to go back into this dingy, grimy world of Alien where like there's CRT TVs and you've got to there's some airlocks and you have to wait for the air to depressurize in that area or certain temperatures to change. So you're like seeing time pass in the movie like it's quickly, but like they have to wait. Like there's no the clock is ticking, but at the same time there's nothing they can do to make it go faster because they're dealing with nearly defunct technology. Because it's just that's how space is in the Alien universe. I will for anyone who's looking for a great sci-fi movie, I will recommend it. This movie feels like it has 4 acts. Would be my only complaint. There is very much a first, a second, and a third act, and then there's another act on top of that, Mike, which just continues it kind of going because that's how Alien movies continue to ramp and ramp and ramp. And the 4th act is obviously interesting, but like it is very much I thought the movie was over. Oh, we're still going kind of situation. So that's an interesting take, but obviously Fede Alvarez from I believe he did the what's it called? Oh my, the horror films with the shotgun arm dude. Evil Dead, the Evil Dead remake, and some other horror films. Did a really good job. It's scary. It's fun. I had a good time. I mean, if you can't get to theaters to see it, I recommend watching it at home. But turn your lights out because that just adds to the ambiance, right? Being in the dark with the aliens where you don't know they are. So I highly recommend it for my part if you like aliens. If you're probably an Alien diehard fan, and you've probably already seen it. But I had a really good time watching it along the way. Any questions, Mike, on that?
I mean, I'm worried to divulge any more because I want to watch the movie myself. I also came to the Alien franchise later in life, so the second that this thing's out in home release, I'm
excited. I want to get your take on it because I think you obviously we like you mentioned late to life Alien people. We've only really been exposed first day one to the newer ones, and this is very much an old one. So excited to talk about that when it comes out. But we're gonna move on, I think, because this kind of ties into our first topic, and I teased at the top of the show here, and that is the Rotten Tomatoes updates that they announced this week, and they have now a new verified hot audience badge, which is the popcorn meter. They've made some changes to that, but also some other changes to the scoring and when those scores are released based on thresholds on like domestic forecasts in terms of revenue and stuff like that. So I'm excited to kind of break this down, Mike. But the first part, again, obviously, I think is the new verified hot audience badge, which is the popcorn meter, which we've talked about before, right? Like there's a dissonance between critics hate the movie, audiences like it. Critics like the movie, audiences hate it, right? We've always have to balance these narratives back and forth because Rotten Tomatoes, they're an aggregator. They are not a review system themselves. They don't give out reviews. They just read what everyone else is doing. And I think it was on Thursday, I had to correct somebody because they were like, I think it was Borderlands. Maybe it was Borderlands. They were like, Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 8% or 0%. I'm like, well, Rotten Tomatoes didn't give anybody any score, buddy. Like it is, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't give scores. It is just, they're just pulling all the reviews and they're like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm like, but that is like something you have to deal with, right? People think Rotten Tomatoes is the end all be all of giving whether movies live or die. But the popcorn meter, Mike, you understand this.
Yeah. My takeaway from this is they are only going to be aggregating reviews from audiences if the audience review is verified. So I believe there has to be some sort of ticket purchase somewhere in the pipeline in order for that review to get aggregated. I'm not exactly sure how they're doing that. Like, does it have to be like
it is Fandango
purchase, or are they plugging into like maybe they'll plug into like more like APIs in the future or something like that. Obviously, it's still a system that can be gamed, but wow, do you take steam out of review bombers and their campaigns so quickly? Because the second that you have to like put money up to start trolling or quote unquote express your opinion, like the campaign is gonna fall flat, right? Nobody puts their money where their mouth is, especially if they're like stupid or racist, right? They just want to spew their hate for free, which is why a lot of social media is awful because it doesn't cost any money to make a post, right? But I like this idea. At least they're doing something, right? I saw somebody earlier this week that says, I guess IMDb has some sort of algorithm in place where they try to like weight reviews, how they come in, and that's how they try to get around review bombing. But I don't think that's been effective in the past either. Like, an algorithm can't determine, all types of behavior when you're reviewing a movie. At least there's like a dollar exchange in order to get that review in there. And I think that's smart and I think that's good. So, you're voting with your dollars, and if you've seen the movie, we want to know what you think. So, I don't care, I know this hasn't been rolled out, for specifically like the Acolyte, but for a TV show like the Acolyte that was dealing with all that nonsense up front, I'm kind of curious if they have plans for figuring out how they're going to do it with non-films. So hopefully they'll maybe once this is kind of like out of beta or they see it successful with films, I'd love to see it pivoted to TV shows as well.
So I'm going to go ahead and correct you. Number one, not all audiences who've bought tickets can still review movies. Just going to throw that out there. If you've not bought it, you can still leave a review. It will not become verified hot until you have to have a verified review, enough verified reviews to do that. So I don't want people to think you can't leave a review on a movie if I watch Deadpool and Wolverine through my Cinemark app, and I go to leave a review, it'll still let me leave a review and it will take it. But the verified hot or verified badge is once a certain number of people with actual tickets leave reviews, so you can see verified reviews versus unverified. So I think it'll still, TV shows will still be affected by this, but they have updated a lot of movies from the backwards from August as verified hot. So they've gone back and actually retroactively applied this to several movies, including Deadpool and Wolverine, Dungeons and Dragons, Dune Part 2, so on and so forth. So they have applied that backwards. I do want to see how it goes. Like a lot of movies, I would like to see some controversial film, right? Like something that is like good with critics, and how do people really feel, or it's how will the next Star Wars film be reviewed, Mike? That Star Wars, we talk about Star Wars, it's a very, very hot topic. I think I would love to see how this affects a going forward Star Wars review, or something like that. I know The Crow came out this weekend, I believe, right? Are you a Crow fanatic? You like to see a murder of crows?
I mean, I forgot that this was being remade. I mean, that this came out.
It's like the 8th one, so everyone's like, "Oh, I can't remake the Crow." I'm like, "They've remade the Crow already. It had the dude from Terminator 2 be the Crow in one of the films." I'm like, nobody really is that precious on it. If you like the original, it's fine. You can have a cult classic one, but the new one came out. But everyone's there's a lot of people like, you shouldn't remake the Crow. Well, it doesn't matter if you think you should remake The Crow. Don't leave a bad review if you're feeling like, oh, they remade my favorite movie from the early 90s where someone was killed in the making of it. Don't give it a 1 star because I don't want them to remake it. You should review it based on what the review should be based on whether you saw it or not, right? Like that is the premise of this whole thing. Like it's made or broken on people watching it, leaving an honest, fair review. I saw the movie, I didn't like it. I will trust that person more than I don't like the idea that they're remaking a movie that I love, kind of thing. So that is one one thing that is where this should help alleviate those four. But you can also see red and green popcorn buckets. They're now doing, instead of just a popcorn meter, they're applying the 3.5 star rating. So if it's above a 3.5 star rating, 60% of it, it'll be red. If it's below 3.5 star for more than 60%, it'll be green for stale, if you will. But the other part of this goes into critic reviews, Mike. Unless you had something else you want to talk about, audience reviews, real fast. I don't want to.
No.
Okay, so critic reviews, and I've included the article when they listed all this here. So reviews, I've seen this a lot whenever I'm trying to gather our news for the week. Is like, oh, the Rotten Tomatoes score has been revealed, and it's like 3 reviews for again, let's just use an example: Deadpool, Wolverine. It's a perfect rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Well, it's got 3 reviews. Like that's not really a good way to guess. Your verified critics are like, are they going to like or love it based on 3 people, right? You want more. The more you have, the better your inclinations of how this movie is sitting, whether people enjoy it or didn't enjoy it. So one of the things they're doing is, if the total projected domestic box forecast, that's a lot of words, projected and forecast in the same one, is within a certain range, they will give let's say it's 120 million plus, such as Deadpool and Wolverine. They will not publish the tomato meter until they have 40 official reviews in, like 40 critic reviews, rather than just 3. And this goes down.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're looking for like statistical significance, basically, yeah. Right? I've seen people on social media who are maybe like retweeting like a project that they worked on, whether it's like a TV show or a movie or like an indie film or something like that. And it's exactly like you said, they have like 2 reviews from some I don't know, random critic somewhere, and it's like 100%. Then all of a sudden, everyone's like, "Oh my God, my project or this project, this person I'm a fan of, wow, their movies is 100% on Rotten Tomatoes." It's like, well, that's two people. Like, if you took a statistics class, that's not statistically significant. So all of this stuff makes sense, and I'm glad they're finally getting around kind of some of this this basic arithmetic.
Yeah, exactly, and it gives a fair representation. I guess a more fair representation, not the fairest representation. So, I think the biggest takeaway for this is, Mike, is that they're willing to listen. Right, they're willing to make changes to this. Rotten Tomatoes is not the end all be all, and you never know when something's going to swing through and take its place down the road. Whether it be maybe IMDb gets their thing figured out, or the TMDB, which is the movie database, maybe they get their stuff figured out, or even Plex introduces their own review system, right? And that's what you fall off of. So they're willing to change and adapt to this, and hopefully we see less review bombing, less negative people online just for no real reason other than the fact they hate it. Remember we talked about, what was it, the Acolyte, people review bombing the wrong series or like even a movie just because they saw the name, the Acolyte, right, and leaving a bad review. So I'm excited to see this. I do think it would help if they had more verification in place. Again, hopefully they introduce things like with AMC or Cinemark or a Regal. Maybe you get a boosted review if you buy a popcorn bucket, right? You can see my review a little higher because I have the Dune popcorn bucket. I'm kidding. This is not real, folks. Don't take me seriously. But yeah, I'm excited for this. Anything else, Mike, before we move on? All right. No, you're great. Don't sell yourself short, buddy. So Captain America, Brave New World. This is more just for Marvel in general, but the Brave New World part of this is where I've seen the highest resolution Red Hulk the transformation clips in the world since, I guess, D23. But Marvel tweeted out a clip of their upcoming projects, but they deleted it for their upcoming 85th year of Marvel Comics, and that includes comic books. There's a Stan Lee part of it. There is, an MCU part of it. Pretty fun little minute and a half clip, but we get to see the official looks at Harrison Ford's Red Hulk transformation that was teased in the San Diego and D23 footage. We get to see the Thunderbolts on an elevator, Ironheart, Agatha all along, more. This is a pretty cool thing. Did you get a chance to look at it?
Yeah, I just watched the clip through. Yeah, that it's just like you said, you're getting a more high resolution of a leak that we were like looking through over the conventions this past summer. So I mean, the Red Hulk, he's out there. We know it's Harrison Ford. Let's see how that keys into the movie.
Yeah.
The Thunderbolts is getting exciting. We've been seeing some leak stuff, so this is just kind of like, I think, like an elevator shot or a group shot or something like that. But the Thunderbolt stuff is getting really exciting for me.
Yeah, me too. I think, was it last week we had the leak trailer and you weren't here? That was really fun to talk about. Sorry you weren't there, but there is one shot in there, and I think I wanted to bring it up with you, is that it looks like they're meeting Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character Val and in a big building and with some glass windows. I think that's the Avengers Tower, Mike. I think they bought it, and we're gonna see it.
Yeah, that seems to be the prevailing theory. I wonder where they're getting all that money for that big old.
I think the government's. Again, my theory is that we know it's called Thunderbolts based on Thunderbolt Ross, who was at the president in Captain America: Brave New World. So he's like, I want to start the Avengers again. These are his Avengers. At the end of the movie, we'll see it's a new Avengers Tower, like literally new Avengers. So maybe that's what we get out of Thunderbolts. But the Sentry, yay! That's what I'm excited for. Moving on to Fantastic Four: First Steps. I'm another movie I'm thrilled for, and I wanted to bring this up. I know we've shared set photos and videos and drone shots and all this other fun stuff before, but I wanted to specifically bring this up for you, Mike, because this is a really cool 1960s set. They've got the roads. It looks like they're even like leaving some room for like a tram down the middle of the street. The cars have that 1960s vibe. There's the biggest tube television I've ever seen on the corner of this square.
Yeah,
thing.
That's sick.
And I think what's important to notice about this, the Bob Chapek era of films is an asterisk because of him, but also because of COVID, right? There were years they had to film things in a very quarantine safe, very, removed environments. And, again, we look at Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's a CGI film, right? The entire thing is CGI. They're in a volume, essentially, if you will, or just CGI everywhere. But this is sets, Mike. This is real sets they're building here with real aesthetics, real storefronts. They're not even CGI-ing the storefronts in. They're adding them in, like, in person, which is awesome to see this. It gives me so much excitement alone, not knowing that it's Fantastic Four, but also like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a real tangible things they're interacting with in this movie. So, I've never been personally to New York, but this looks to be a New York of some kind, does it not? I think so.
Well, from the first, 20 feet up until the blue lines delineate where the rest of the CG of the buildings are going to be.
Right. Yeah. Cool. I mean, that's that's Star Wars, but like I just can't believe they have that many cars. And there's another shot even wider, it's farther out, where they have even more cars in like storage, like parked, so they can pull them out here. So, pretty excited to see this. It's gonna be funny if this turns out just to be a miniature, and it's just supposed to look like it's a big thing from far away, but. We'll keep you guys posted. Fantastic Four First Steps coming out July 2025. This was some pretty interesting news this week, Mike, and that's Vision, the series, is obviously got some interesting, but James Spader is returning to voice Ultron in the upcoming Marvel series, and according to scoopers or news sources, if you will, he will have a quote-unquote major role in the show as well.
I mean, if you're kind of approaching a narrative from the point of view of Vision, outside of all of the other heroes and just generally saving the world, I mean, Ultron is the closest thing to like being his like creator, father figure, origin story, if you will. And last time we saw him was White Vision, kind of at odds with himself in a way. Yeah. So it makes sense that bring James Spader back in some way, whether it's just kind of like a voice in his head, or maybe there's like a scrap of like an Ultron bot somewhere out in a cave just like rotting or something. Yeah. I don't know, but it's exciting.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, just refresher for Age of Ultron, is that the Vision's body is a vibranium body created for Ultron to move his consciousness into, right? Like that's what they were doing with the Vision, and that's before they were able to steal it and then use the Cosmic Cube or Mind Stone and Thor's hammer to bring him to life, right? The big reveal. One of the coolest scenes in Age of Ultron is the reveal of Vision. Obviously, super powerful character as well. But in What If Season 1, there's an Ultron, literally, supposed to be Ultron's voice in the Vision's body, get all the Infinity Stones, and obviously terrorizes the end of that season. But it was Ross Marquand who did the voice of Ultron in that show instead of James Spader. So it's cool to have him come back and do that, because it's such a menacing voice. Despite, again, Age of Ultron being not as good as the original Avengers, I think that movie holds up still after all this time. It's still a big turning point in the MCU with the fall of Sokovia, so on and so forth. So really fun to have him come back and be that menacing role in that. Also, they are looking to cast actor Javon Walton, I don't remember what he's from, as a character called Teen. Ironically, Teen is the name of a character in Agatha All Along, who everyone thinks is one of the sons of Vision and Scarlet Witch. So it sounds like they're trying to bring in to this reality, the Vision and Wanda's children, aged up a bit, obviously not as the kids as they were when we saw the show, which is pretty cool. So they're known as Wiccan and Speed. Wiccan would be in Agatha All Along, and Speed, who has very similar powers to Quicksilver, would be possibly in this show as well. This is previous news, but Terry Matalas, showrunner of Picard, I think season 2 and 3, is a showrunner from the upcoming series. Kevin Feige is a known Trek head, if you will. Are they called Trek heads? Trekkies. And was impressed by his work and hired him for the series. So we at least have that much. So all this casting stuff is starting to speed up. Means they're probably going to get into production probably into this year, maybe early next year. But also the biggest news / rumor on this is Elizabeth Olsen is locked in, and I use that in quotes, to return as Scarlet Witch for a project filming in 2025. It could be this Vision Quest series, or possibly her return in Doomsday. I would not put it past them to put her in the show, but we've heard she's probably in Act all along. She's probably in Vision. I think they use flashbacks. I don't think they'd really get Elizabeth Olsen, but if they do that, that'd be cool, right? I mean, she did a great job in the role.
Yeah, I would be surprised if we see Scarlet Witch in Agatha all along, outside of just like flashbacks or something like that. No original footage, just because Agatha all along kind of seems like a side quest type of show to me. I'll be surprised if the narrative of that ladders up to anything big in the future. But it makes more sense if she pops up in Vision somewhere, or obviously a bigger movie for sure. We all know she's not done forever, because the character's not done unless you actually see them die. If you just fall under a bunch of rocks and you just turn into a big flash of light, like, you're obviously
or we are also in the multiverse. We did see 2 versions of her in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness as well. So
true.
I think worst case scenario, best case scenario, Agatha all along. We get to the end, and it's her telling Agatha, you don't have to be evil, right? Take care of my son, whatever. It's like a remnant of her vision. Maybe it's a program created reminding him of her, kind of thing, to bring him back to his regular colored body. I don't know. So we'll see. I think nothing's off the table for her, but the hunt for Scarlet Witch in all these products is becoming the new Mephisto. Mephisto's in it, Scarlet Witch is in it, kind of thing. So we'll keep you guys posted. Moving on, X-Men 97. I have left most of the drama out of this post, Mike, that I shared with you earlier this week. But season 3 showrunner Matthew Chauncey, who I believe he did What If, has been praised as a genius, and these quotes, by director Emi Yonomura, who directed several episodes of season 1 of X-Men 97, but also including like the very hard-hitting ones, Remember It and Bright Eyes, right? The very emotional episodes for that. And I do say season 3 specifically because the season 2 scripts have been done and are getting retooled / revised to remove Bo DeMayo's credits from them. You want to touch that?
Yeah, I feel like my opinions would be different. No, but my opinions would be different compared to if this was something live action. Animation is always such a huge collaborative effort, where it just doesn't feel like the fulcrum of the quality of the show kind of rests on one individual. Sometimes it feels like that when something's live action. So I'm more optimistic, and at least we're kind of pushing past a lot of this somewhat early on, right? It's not like all of this shakeup is happening when you're well on into your 3rd or 4th season. So I'm hopeful for this one.
Well, even then, I think a shakeup of that nature and this nature, like, they have feedback from the fans, right? From the first season. I've not heard a bad thing about season 1. They've got a lot of good feedback online. Obviously, they can take that feedback and run with it to enhance, change, adapt, whatever they need to going forward. But knowing that the scripts are done and they just have to retool them up to 51% of the script has to change for it to be someone else's script. It's going to be pretty okay. I think they'll probably just do some quick editing around those. But good. Season 3 is a good announcement. I think that's the more subtle announcement that they will have more than 2 seasons of the show. Season 3. I would love to see what it looks like and see where X-Men 97 or 98, 99, whatever they want to call it, goes. Because that first one was just such a great nostalgia tool, but also pushing things forward for animation and Marvel stories. I should have put this closer to the top, but the Acolyte will not be getting a season 2. There are terms, people said it's canceled. I don't know if a show is truly canceled or not. They just said we're not doing season 2. So they didn't bill it as a limited season series, so it was probably canceled. But I'm going to put a big asterisk here, Mike, and I think we talked about this a little bit off air, is that while the Acolyte may not be getting season 2, characters are likely to show up in probably another High Republic series. Literally, you could call it Plagueis, like, you know, right? The internet's reaction to Darth Plagueis in that final episode, it has eclipsed this entire show, I think, in terms of news articles. So, like, do you like just continue with the bad guys and run a a limited season with the bad guys and, you know, finish off these characters along the way and just do like a end of the High Republic wrap up, if you will? What would you do in this situation?
Yeah, you do bring up a pretty good point when we were talking about this earlier this week. Doesn't mean you have to leave the era entirely, and it would be pretty damning if like one show just kind of obliterates an entire timeline of Star Wars. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of characters that you could focus on. I mean, I saw a lot of people that were saying, "Oh, Justice for Manny Jacinto."
Yeah,
is that how you say his name?
character,
because everyone loved him in the show. Yeah, you could pivot it, and you know the show could be about him. I don't know. It's a shame that the Star Wars just fan base and just franchise is just so toxic at this point. You know, it seems like you can't try new things, but if you just keep doing the old stuff, it's stale. But at the same time, they're making everything worse by just having huge swings in quality of all of their shows. Like, they're making some good stuff, they're making some bad stuff. So it's just all over the place. There's absolutely no consistency in Star Wars. So whenever there's a new streaming show, whenever there's a new movie, you just have no idea if it's going to just be good. And then on top of that, you got to deal with all of these kind of like micro fan bases within the Star Wars universe. So I guess I would say I'm not surprised it's canceled. This could just be it's just purely from a metrics point of view.
Well,
they just looked at the streaming numbers, like a lot of people didn't watch this. Why would we make more of it?
The reports have said that it was just low viewership, which I will be honest, I contributed to that because I didn't watch the show on Disney Plus until the Saturday before it ended, right? Like, so if you're looking at a period over time, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, like, you know, you're making decisions week by week. I personally did not contribute to the show very well until the end. Now, mind you, we watched all of them in a binge, so like maybe that gives us some data for some of these shows. But like I know I didn't assist in its pickup or cancellation until the last week of this, 7 weeks in. My thing I would do, like, I agree with you. So Star Wars, whether you like or hate the prequels or not, they've been giving more love lately. Is, guess what? There was one person with a vision behind it, right? George Lucas did all of the first 3 movies, did all the prequel films. After that, that's where everything I mean, Clone Wars is pretty good, but George Lucas worked with Dave Filoni to get that done. So obviously, George Lucas, once he left Star Wars, there's not been one person driving the ship, right? You have, you know, I wouldn't say too many cooks in the kitchen. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni did some good stuff with The Mandalorian, but like, you know, as you mentioned, it's all over the place, right? In live action, it is literally not one vision kind of overall. You get, you know, Andor, which was a show, they said that, you know, the viewing numbers were not good at launch, but gradually grew over time to increase its second season announcement, which was not soon after. It was a little later after that. But it's Gilroy, what's his name? Gilroy, who had a vision for Star Wars, right? He wrote Rogue One. He's written this. He knows what it is. He's telling the story, his vision. I'm gonna kind of liken the Acolyte, quote unquote, not getting renewed or picked up for season 2, similar to Book of Boba Fett, right? Like, they could easily, like, yeah, people love this, we're gonna do another one, but the timeline continued around it, right? The Mandalorian, Ahsoka continued to tell the story in that time frame without nuking everything, because it wasn't, you know, probably didn't get the viewership like everything else did. So I would say the Acolyte, you know, may not have that viewership, but give me one more limited series, 8 episodes of Darth Plagueis, you know, working with the twins here to solve this. You know, we got to create a Force person. We meet a young Palpatine, you know, for the first time, and maybe the show ends where Palpatine kills Plagueis, and now we know we have a bridge into the prequels, right? Without having to do it all in a row there. But yeah, I don't know. The Acolyte, you know, again, like I said, I joined at the end. I got some. There's some great moments in it. I really like it. There's some stuff I was like, yeah, it could be better. But I am looking forward to Skeleton Crew after the trailer, you know, a couple weeks ago. So we do have something, I feel, with John Watts, right, to look forward to with that one. Moving on to this. This is good news / bad news, I think. And this is going to be for Spider-Man, the live-action franchise at Sony. Phil Lord and Chris Miller have left, reports of saying, to Sony Television after disagreements over Spider-Man's Noir budget. And good news is Lord and Miller can go finish Spider-Verse films. Bad news is Sony Television is just gonna, its launch is gonna be shitty, right? Like, you know, I we've talked about Spider-Man Noir being good, having good people behind it. With them gone, I have no faith in Spider-Man Noir anymore, Mike. My goodwill is gone out the window.
It is funny just to hear people going to bat for, you know, Spider-Man Noir, like a show that nobody really was chomping at the bit for sure, especially if it's not related to, you know, Kevin Feige's hand in any way. So it's like, oh, Phil Lord and Miller, like why you guys don't worry about this one? Let this one go. Like no one's looking at this one. Just
they did have a deal they signed with Sony back in 2019 that included Spider-Man stuff. So I think it was part of that deal. Like they had to do something with Spider-Man, and you know, obviously Silk Spider Society did not move forward at Amazon after the writer strikes, but I do believe that was Amazon's decision and not Sony's decision, right? Like Amazon was like, we're not gonna, we stopped paying the writers' room, we're gonna get fined, we just canceled it. But they don't have to deliver necessarily Spider-Man content because they did the after party for Apple TV Plus. Did you watch that at all?
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, Lord and Miller are incredibly creative and successful and hilarious. I don't think that creative duo needs to be tied up with Spider-Man for the next 10 years. Like, just bring it home with the last chapter of Spider-Verse and then just get another development deal with a different studio. Like, I don't go make more original stuff, adapt something else. I don't know. I'm all for, like, letting the creators put their hand in and then go out and do some other stuff. It doesn't always work out, but we don't need to have these guys chained down by Sony's Spider-Man universe. Now, if it was like, you know, Disney Marvel's Spider-Man universe, okay, you know, maybe there's a little bit more fun to be had there, but I'm okay with them moving
They could possibly come over to that. I think, you know, an example where that doesn't work, just to play devil's advocate a little bit, is the Russo brothers not having any, like, I guess, agreements overall, right? Maybe they had Netflix. I don't know. But, you know, they didn't really do anything after they were out of Marvel for a little bit. They're coming back to Marvel. But I would love to see, you know, them give someone else Sony's movies, right? The Spider-Man movies after Spider-Verse, even if they're animated. You know, we talk about, what's that duo team that did Everything Everywhere All at Once that we want to do some Marvel move?
Oh, I want to say the Davids.
Daniels.
No, the Daniels.
Yeah, the Daniels. Let them take over, right? Get a duo in here or team and let them run some Sony animated, you know, films. They're good at, if they want to continue the Spider-Verse, they've got examples in the multiverse. Maybe they don't want to do the multiverse, they just want to do single Spider-Man movies. Do that too. I think you know, I agree with you, there are other people who could come in and do another 10 years, right? But I want to see them, like you said, pull the last Spider-Verse movie across the finish line with another A+, right? Like, make this the perfect trilogy of films, because it would just be so cool to see that, right? To have all three deliver hit after hit after hit. So just don't Godfather it, right? I mean, that's my concern. They're gonna hit that third one, and then we're gonna get Godfather Part 3 up in this. And no one's a huge fan of it. They don't hate it, but compared to the other two, it's just not that good. Moving into Justice League Immortal. Did you ever hear about Justice League Immortal? I want to check that before I go into this news, because...
Yeah, we've talked about it in the past of George Miller doing like a dark Justice League movie, but it was it was in pre-production, but never... Cameras never rolled. I don't.
It got to week 1, 1 week before they filmed, before this movie canceled. I'm pretty sure. So George Miller was going to direct the DC movie Justice League Immortal in 2008, 2009 for like a 2010 release. This is, you know, at the end of I guess in the middle of what's his name, Christopher Nolan's Batman stuff. They're like, we need a Justice League movie before Zack Snyder comes in. So they get George Miller of Babe fame, right? They were like, God, we just love your Talking Pig movie. We need you to come do Justice League for us. That's a joke. That's not real. Don't quote me on that, people. But they went and got everything ready. They had a huge list of 2,000 actors lined up here, Mike. I've included them in here just so we can remember who was going to be in this movie, including alleged cannibal Armie Hammer as Batman, Bruce Wayne, DJ Catrona, is that right? As Superman, Megan Gale as Wonder Woman. You can find photos of her online. Adam Brody as the Flash. As Barry Allen Flash, Anton Yelchin played as Wally West Flash, actor Common as John Stewart Green Lantern, Jay Baruchel as Maxwell Lord. Huge list of actors here, but we got our first real look at Hugh Keays-Byrne as the Martian Manhunter from this movie. A bunch of production stills here, and he is the size of a barn. Right, is what you said earlier, kind of thing. Like he is wide as a barn here.
He's thick. I mean, if you ever needed to know, Martian Manhunter had strength. I mean, this is one way to portray it on screen. Just the biggest alien you've ever seen in the world. I mean, I don't know if this seems like a 90s comic book depiction. I don't know exactly what Martian Manhunter looked like in the 90s on the page, but this feels like very 90s energy. But what a crazy movie. This is the type of thing that in 100 years, when AI has replaced all forms of entertainment creation, you just copy paste all of these names and everything, and maybe you can find a leaked version of the script, throw it into an AI machine, and it makes the movie.
That's where I would do.
Like, terrifying. I would
love to see that. Even if it's just kind of like even slightly animated, but like. This guy's red eyes, the suit is like kind of like the suit's not even a suit. It's like in his skin, it looks like, right? He's just kind of wearing the suit with the skin, the outfit. The last photo, I will say, it's got like a profile shot of him. He looks like the aliens from Prometheus, to bring that back around. Like if you just whited this out instead of greened out, he's got like that huge Cro-Magnon brow, like the nose is like as straight as a wall kind of thing, and a huge chin. Very, very Superman-esque. It's great to kind of see this stuff. Again, like I said, the guy went on to become Morton Joe in Fury Road, so we didn't get to see his face, but we got to see, again, how wide he was in the car. It was really fun to see this. If you guys want to check this out, I recommend you guys go look up some more stuff on Justice League Immortal from George Miller along the way. Hellboy, the Crooked Man. Good news, bad news. We got a double whammy here. Number one, they are going to have an international release on September 13th. So here in just a couple weeks, if you're overseas outside the U.S., you can watch this in theaters. However, there's been no U.S. release date yet for theaters or even digital. A lot of people I've seen have like, oh, this movie's going to go straight to streaming. I didn't really get that impression. But at the same time, I don't know what the plan is for this movie over here in the U.S., Mike.
Well, maybe this is going to be the launch title for the Chick-fil-A streaming service. They just see a lot of crossover between Hellboy fans and fried chicken eaters.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you heard about that, Chris? The Chick-fil-A streaming service?
Well, I figured God's Chicken and Hellboy wouldn't mix, but you know what? I'd love to get proven wrong here along the way. But it's funny, they did announce that streaming service when literally everybody else is like, we're getting out of streaming services, right? Like, I don't know if it's just going to be like a parody or like the same, like they got those cow commercials played over and over again. It feels like a Mint Mobile streaming service kind of thing, right? Like Mint Mobile, we're doing streaming services. It's just Ryan Reynolds commercials over and over again. Have you been following the Paramount stuff either? I didn't put it in here, but like Paramount's had like two buyers, and one's a company and the other one's just a dude with a bunch of money, and now they're fighting over it. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a big will they, won't they? I'm just waiting.
I want to see who buys it and what streaming service are they going to merge into next, right after Paramount Plus? What's it going to be after that? The Paramount Peacock Network. All right, let's get to. We got one more fun bit of news where we get some trailers to wrap this up. Number one, Anaconda, the movie everyone just loves from 1997. It's getting a remake with Paul Rudd and Jack Black, both in talks to star in it.
This is so weird to me because Anaconda is one of those VHSs that we had in our home growing up that me and my brother watched all of the time. Like, there's no particular reason why. I don't know why we had the VHS. I don't even know what the bona fides are for this movie. I think is LL Cool J in it, or Ice Cube's in it, or one of them's in it.
Yeah,
I think Ice Cube.
Well, Jennifer Lopez, right?
Yeah. I think J-Lo's in it as well. And we watched it just all the time. So I have this weird nostalgia for the movie, which I'm sure maybe a lot of people don't have. But Paul Rudd and Jack Black, I mean, that's a duo that everybody loves. So I don't know exactly where this movie's coming from, like who spearheaded this and rebooted this IP, but I'm down for it. I'll watch
just the first four names on the list: John Voight, Jennifer Lopez, Ice Cube, and Owen Wilson. Were in this movie. So so like my concern is Jack Black, Paul Rudd, love him to death. Is this gonna be a serious movie or is it gonna be like a parody Anaconda movie, right? Like they're trying to film a snake and it's like funny things happen and to everyone but them. I don't know. Like was it Piranha, like a Piranha movie kind of thing? This is just an article. Like literally, when I read this news, I had to read it twice, and they even had to put in there, "This is not a joke. This is not. We are not in April. This is not April Fools. This is a real bit of news here." So, whoever owns the rights must be barking up the right trees over their agents. All right, last three bits of news here. We're going to end with three trailers. Number one is the first trailer for Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft, and that was released, and it's an anime kind of animated series with Captain Carter herself, Haley Atwell, voicing Lara Croft in this series. And Mike, I don't think from hearing you watch the trailer earlier before the show started, I don't think you're big on the Lara Croft mythology these days. You've
Yeah, not big on the mythology or the lore in any way. I mean, I feel like we could almost talk about this topic and the next one almost in conjunction because it's almost the same thing that's happening. It's an anime adaptation of something that's previously existed.
So, I'm going to finish this up because the only thing about the Tomb Raider: The Legend of Lara Croft is it actually picks up after the events of the latest games from Squaresoft, which are really, really fun. Games again. If you're into Lara Croft, did the tomb raiding, Indiana Jones style games early on in the 90s. I have the remakes. About the remasters that came out this year. She got dozens of games, but like they're doing they're picking up after the latest game. So if you haven't played that, you might be out. But this is made for people who've been playing the newer Squaresoft games, and obviously Haley Atwell's a great thing. Moving into Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim, which is obviously for the Lord of the Rings fan. It is an anime film for literally, I think it's 100 years before the actual Lord of the Rings movies, and tells the story of the fictional, I guess, it's not a town. What is it, like a city or whatever they call these people in fantasy things, of Rohan and the battle involving the character Helm Hammerhand, which, obviously if you've seen Lord of the Rings, the second movie is Helm's Deep, which this is how it's got its name, is this battle here. Mike, I know you're not a Lord of the Rings person. Like, you've seen the movies, but like you don't live and breathe the fantasy realm here. So
yeah. Well, this one's a little bit more intriguing compared to the Tomb Raider one because just look at anything that Netflix has done with anime adaptations or anime style adaptations of other IP. It's a dime a dozen over at Netflix. Yeah. They must have some sort of insight with their algorithm that goes like, oh, if we just throw some money at this IP, have some animators make it look like anime, we'll get some views or retain some viewers. There doesn't seem to be a lot of spark of inspiration. Yep. When it comes to that, but the Lord of the Rings one's a little different because it's a feature film,
yes.
Which means like de facto you're putting way more money, way more work, way more time into it, especially if it's animation. And then just watching the two back to back, you're seeing visually different quality for sure. And with a film as well, I feel like there's more intention to it, right? This is like the one time you're doing it. You got to make this stand on its own. You're not kind of crossing your fingers that a streaming service, will bolster you for more seasons. So all I can say is that the footage looks pretty cool for it. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Not a huge Lord of the Rings like super fan. I've enjoyed the stuff that I've seen, but do I set aside time to watch this? I don't know. At least there'll be some signifiers on this one. It will get a Rotten Tomatoes score. It'll get a box office result, and it'll be kind of interesting to see.
So I think one of the things, I don't think you're going to watch this in theaters. I don't think this is a mic in theaters, so this might be later. But the director, this Kinji Kamiyama, has a history in anime, if you will. He has worked on as an artist for Akira and Kiki's Delivery Service films. Both, I know you've seen both of those. He's also directed Ghost in the Shell movies, and he worked on the Blade Runner Black Lotus anime for Adult Swim and Crunchyroll earlier. And if you look him up, he actually, you can see more of his work. He did backgrounds on DuckTales, was like his first job ever. So he has had decades, since 1987, old as we are, in the animation industry in Japan, and I'm putting some weight into that more than just like, I don't know who most of these anime companies are, to be completely honest. Anime is not my thing, so I'm excited to know someone with a pedigree of things I've seen and know of is going to be, I guess, diving into this, being the director of this movie. And Lord of the Rings is having a little bit of a resurgence. The show, Rings of Power is coming back on Amazon tonight, I think. So that's pretty fun for me. And like you said, it just looks better because it's a TV, or not TV, a movie, right? Overall, I love seeing the shot of the big. I know they're not elephants, but it looks like a war elephant charging the lady in the film. So, love to see fantasy come to life in animation. With an asterisk, I don't care for this last one we're going to have to talk about because it is fantasy coming in animation. And I will tell you, I knew it's called Twilight of the Gods, and this is Zack Snyder's upcoming animated series on Netflix, right? It's very not safe for work. Do not watch this trailer in your office if you're around anybody today because it features, and I quote, blood, sex, and dragons. Mike, you probably saw this as well. But I knew it was Zack Snyder going into it. And I was like, I will give some Norse mythology some weight here. I think it's interesting. I've enjoyed God of War stuff. I've Thor, all the other fun stuff with Norse mythology. But like 30 seconds in, and I was tuned right out of this show, Mike. I couldn't give the trailer my full attention, and I can't put my finger on it. But maybe you have a different view, the same view.
Your finger on it is Zack Snyder's name. The second you see it, why should you get involved? Also, even if he breaks from tradition and it's good and we like it, what are the odds that they make more of it, right? So why even get attached? At least visually, it looks kind of unique in a way. Kind of reminds me a little bit of, not super familiar with the game Hades, but it kind of has a little bit of that vibe to it. It just, it has a different visual aesthetic to it that you don't always see with, animated titles. So at least it's slightly more visually compelling. But yeah, no, I don't give Zack Snyder the time of day anymore. So the only way I'll ever watch this is if there's some sort of groundswell of normal people that are just like, yeah, actually, this is pretty good. You should probably watch it. So, which is usually never good for Netflix. Netflix wants instant results the first days that something is available.
I think it just because
something tells me this will be the last thing from Snyder.
I think they canceled his other stuff. They said as well, like the games and everything else with the Army of the Dead series that he's been working on. But I think it's just maybe it's the gratuitous violence. I'm like, they're killing people that I don't know or care about right away, and I'm like, it's just shock value. And I'm not in the shock value for this. Right? Like, if I want to commit to an animated series, I don't want to be just, oh my god, every couple seconds. I'd rather it be about characters you care about and things that are going on that you want to watch. So I think maybe it's just the shock value right away the more I watch it. But I've included that link in our show notes for you guys to watch and make up your minds. It's coming out September 19th, so just less than a month away if you want to catch up on that. Mike, that's the show this week. People want to know what you're up to, what you're doing. In the meantime, where can they find you at, my friend?
Yeah, they can read my webcomics at liferewardsrisk.com and pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you,
you can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, Valdan, or Video Game Systems of the same name. I am 1 week into Fortnite's Absolute Doom season, and we had we didn't lose today. We played 5 games this morning, did not lose a single one, and I think we only lost 1 yesterday. So we're out here just cranking wins on this Marvel stuff, man. I just get into it so hard. But if people know more about the show, what we're doing, where they can find us, because Apple Podcasts is no longer the #1 podcast app, where can they find us on their podcatcher of choice, Mike?
Oh, well, that's why you buy a domain name and you own superheroslate.com, because that is always going to be the HQ for everything we do here at the show. If you want to check out our show notes, if you want to see where you can find our podcast, and you can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Please reach out. Let us know what you're excited for coming up. What anime adaptations get you excited in the morning? I would love to know that. And we love our super fans. If you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a buddy, share the show with a friend, and we'll be here every week.
That's
folks.
right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.